All right, everyone, welcome back to the channel for the third PII testimonial. Super excited to talk to a good friend of mine who we actually met in person. We're gonna actually talk about the story because it's a pretty funny story. So I'm joined by Giovanni Di Legge, who is a just retired, congratulations, by the way, from the Montreal Police Force. And, he is into PII investing. We'll talk to him about his portfolio at the end. So he's been, generous enough to unveil his portfolio. We'll see the breakdown. So Giovanni, how are you? How are you, my friend? You look great, by the way.
Thanks a lot. I'm doing great. I was just at the gym this morning. I went for a walk with the dog, and now I'm back here talking to you.
Yeah, and you just got back from Hawaii.
Yeah, I was there for 2 weeks with the family, and it was just
Beautiful.
awesome.
Yeah, and
Great,
you have
beautiful, beautiful waves, great, beautiful mountains, beautiful scenery. And I'm a golfer, so I went to play a few rounds of golf down there. I can tell you one thing: it's not cheap. It's very expensive.
good thing you have the passive income from the portfolio, which we'll talk about, of course. And you are planning another trip soon in Florida. So listen, I'm happy for you, man. You deserve it. Retirement life is definitely great. So introduce yourself to the audience. So you've been Montreal police officer for quite a long time. You've been very, very active. You were even a spokesperson for the Montreal Police Department. You would go to schools and talk to the kids. So tell us briefly, I know there's a lot to share, but if you could just sum it up in a few minutes, that would be great. Tell us about,
Yeah.
who Giovanni is.
Yeah, well, I grew up in an Italian family. My parents came here, immigrated in the 60s, didn't speak any English, no French. They spoke to us only in Italian. And then growing up, going to English school, I was educated all the way up to university at Concordia. I played football for 17 years through the
Wow.
years. And I just, as a police officer, when I became a police officer, I remember when I was in school, I was saying to myself, I said, I got to stay in school. I got to do well. I got to make sure that I get all my, I don't get into any trouble. So that way I can become a police officer. But when I was in university, I did know that I wanted to become a police officer for the Montreal Police. And so I made my application and it went through and I was able to become a police officer.
I'm just curious, what makes you desire to be a police officer? This is just for my own curiosity. What experience do you go through that makes you want, okay, I really, this is really what I want to do? Did you have like a mentor, or was somebody in your family a police officer, or?
I had a cousin of mine who was a police officer for Ottawa, and I was always in that field, in that security field. As a matter of fact, I owned a security company prior to becoming a police officer at the age of 18 years old. So I had a few contracts, and I was working security for the Chateau Champlain Hotel in Montreal. And my boss was a police officer for CP Police. So that gave me the taste of wanting to become a police officer. And then from there, I found out what we needed, what sort of credits is needed to become a policeman. And I got in a conventional way through having a university degree. And then once I was there, I had to learn how to speak French because French was a third language.
Yeah.
And the academy, the only academy in North America, Nicolette, which is the police academy, is the only academy that is French. So I had to do all my studies and all my writing in French. And trust me, it's not easy to write French. So from there, I'll give you an example. It was all legal terms, but the fardeau in French, it means the burden of proof. So I would take the word fardeau, write it in French, and then beside it, I would write the burden of proof in English. So when I was studying and I was looking at some of those words, I knew what it meant, but in English. And that's how I was able to be successful at Nicolette. But once you're determined, Adriano, of doing something, nothing stops you.
Nothing stopped.
Language doesn't stop you. You got to
Right.
make sure that you're primed in education, and you just go for it. So that's today we're going to be talking a little bit about that. You go for your goals, and
Yeah.
if you don't, get help, get tutors, get people, coaches. Your parents are there, friends are there. Ask for help, and people are going to be. You'd be surprised on how many people would want to help you to achieve
Yeah.
your goals because it's c'est une fierté, eh? It's a pride, eh? When you see somebody that you've coached and that person excels and becomes really good at what they do. So
Yeah,
it's
that's something I started experiencing only recently with the launch of the channel, and in the last couple of months, especially, it's been ramping up more and more and more. I've been getting a lot of emails and messages. I've even met multiple, even in people have actually come to Panama, and just this week we're meeting another two couples in the same week, which is pretty crazy. And they share how, like, thanks man, you made me retire 10 years early. I mean, it really makes you feel good. It's a great thing, and it gives you motivation to keep going. So speaking of that, and tutoring and helping and mentoring, you yourself have done this greatly in the police force, right? So tell me a bit about those activities that you've done. We talked about it in person. You went to schools and you gave public speeches, and you're actually mentoring a younger police officer. So tell me a little bit about that.
well, in the first 14 years of my career, I was in special squads. Like I was in squads where you responded to 911 calls. I was in the tactical unit for about 7 years. And then at one point in your career, when you start having children, you have children at home. Uh, there's a lot of overtime that requires you to be there. So that overtime took away from my family time. So I decided to make an application to community relations officer,
Mm-hmm.
and I became a relations officer and a police relation officer, community relations. You're basically one of your priorities is being in the schools and making sure that the school is safe, making sure that you're preventing crime from happening inside the school. And I remember I used to do kiosks in the schools, and parents used to come up to me and say, "How come the police are in the school? Why are you guys here? Is it
Right.
necessary that you're here?" And I would say to them, I would say, the question shouldn't be, why are police officers in the school? The question should be, why aren't the police officers in the school? Just like
Right.
you would have a psychologist in the school, just like you would have a nurse in the school, you want to have safety in the school. And police officers, that's what we do. We make sure that the school is safe. And if there's any threats towards the school, we'll do a lockdown. We'll make sure that the principals are informed, and we'll go after whoever is threatening the school. So that was one of our priorities. Another priority is educating the kids. I believe that it's so important to educate and to empower the kids in order for them to be their own person and to brand themselves. When you say you're branding yourself, you see companies, they're always branding themselves, and they always want to make sure that they're in a positive light, right?
Yeah.
When you look at Nike, if somebody says something that they're sponsoring and it's racist, well, right away they get rid of that person. So that's why, when with cyberbullying, and that's one of my priorities in the school as time went by, we talked a lot about cyber. And I said, sometimes you can make a comment and send it out, and then that comment that you made when you're 14 years old will stay with you for the rest of your life. And it can cause you not to get a job. It
Yeah.
can be detrimental to your future, right? Just because you sent out something. And what better proof for police officers when you're threatening somebody over, cyber, where you're sending an email to somebody or you're sending Instagram? What better proof do we have but the threat that you've made? Because it's all registered.
Yeah.
So, I used to talk a lot about cyberbullying and being careful about, intimidating people, harassing people, threatening people, because all that is recorded. And instead of, as a student, instead of you graduating from that school where all your friends are there, now you're not graduating from that school anymore. You're graduating from an alternative school where you
Right.
have no friends.
You stay
So
behind. Yeah. Yeah. So
those
it's
were some of the talks I used to do with a lot of the students, and we used to do, like, sometimes we calculate in 1 year how many students did we meet, and I would tell you we met over, at least my partner and I, we met over at least 5 to 6 thousand students a year.
well, that's
So that's a
awesome.
lot of students.
It's a big problem.
And
The
it's a
threats and
big problem.
the
It's
cyber online. I mean, I'm experiencing
Yeah.
it. My wife and I are experiencing it ourselves. We get a lot of hateful messages, completely undeserved, all kinds of nonsense. People making videos about us, putting clown suits on our faces, just complete ridiculousness. But like you say, it's there. You got to live with it the rest of your life. So yeah, it's a good thing that you're teaching the kids and showing them early on, like, be careful with that. That could stay with you. So yeah, really good thing that you're doing. And listen, I want to just briefly, before we get into the investing, I want to share the story of how we met, because it was pretty funny.
Sure.
This is how I remember it. Chime in if ever I'm making a mistake. I can't remember if it was an email or a message. I got a message from you. This is like before my channel was really popular. It was, I don't know, at the beginning stages. So I wasn't used to this, now I get them all the time on a daily basis, questions and thank yous and things like that. It says, hey, I like your videos. I like your content. I'm a Montreal police officer. Do you want to meet? We can meet here. Where do you live? So I'm like, oh, great. I'm that's all that's going to happen to me. I'm going to meet him. I'm going to get killed in an alley somewhere, and that's going to be the end of the story. I always think that way. I'm very pessimistic, even with investing. So
yeah, but I said, let's meet at a coffee place, right? And have a coffee.
Yeah,
together.
let's have a coffee. And then I said something, well, I live here. Where do you want to meet? He's like, oh, well, I work at the station 2 blocks away. The station you were working at was literally 5-minute walk.
Yeah, that's the station I used to work at.
Okay, you used to work at. Okay, so he's like, yeah, meet me there, park in the visitor parking, and we'll take my car. I'm on shift. We'll do like a ride along. I'm like, hey, I always wanted to do that, so if this guy's legit, sure, why not? Plus, you had an Italian name, so I kind of trusted that a little bit more. I mean, for people who don't know, your last name is Giovanni di Legge, which literally means of the law, like lawman.
That's correct.
It's amazing. So I'm like, what a coincidence. This guy must be amazing. He must be Mr. Police Officer. Turns out you were. So we meet, and super nice. He had a coffee for me ready, Tim Hortons coffee. And
it was still warm.
It was still warm. We did the drive around, and it's the first time I ever was in a police officer car, and you were telling me a bit, about the shift, and you were showing me the stuff in the cop car. And the first thing I noticed is how amazingly great all the drivers around you drive. Everyone's doing their stops, exaggerated. Everyone's nice and slow. People are behind you. We're going like 30 or 20 in Saint Laurent, but we were talking. Nobody was honking. It was just funny. And right then I understood, okay, this is a really great thing about being a cop and riding around. You have literally the respect of everyone on the road. Everyone drives slower, so automatically, there's more safety. So, I've always had a lot of respect for police officers. Forget what you see online. There's always some bad apples, but in general, I think cops are great. And I've done a lot of one-on-ones with police officers that are just retired, and we're talking about investing and things like that. But I always had a lot of respect for them, because they see a lot of stuff and they put up with a lot of stuff. They have a lot of them have PTSD and stuff like that. But anyway, we had a nice conversation about, investing, and we're just driving around, and they're like, hey, you want to see the center of operation west? I think it is west, right? In Saint Laurent,
that's
the
correct.
west one. And I'm like, yeah, sure. And you took me on a tour, met some detectives working on, cyber cases and thefts and things like that.
We went to the center of operation also downstairs, and we went to the detention center.
Yeah, that's right. There was people in the detention center, and people were in jail, were in the jail, and they did not look happy at all. But you just went in there, you strode in there like you owned the place. You said hi, hi everyone, and you were super friendly. And they were like, oh, like, hey, who's this super nice cop? And like, do you need anything? And you need a blanket or something. Anyway, you were so nice to everyone. And yeah, you showed me that chair where if you can't control people, they put him in that chair and they strapped him. That was pretty cool. And then, of course, the best part, I asked you, say, listen, John, I never fired a gun in my life. Can we go to the range? He's like, yeah, well, we could try, there's a range here. So obviously it wasn't allowed, but we ended up doing it. I'm going to share some pictures just to show people the proof here. Pretty funny. So here it is. Here it is with the target. There we are, me and you. And yeah, there I am holding the gun there. So yeah, pretty funny. It was a great experience. I have to say I had a great day with you there.
Yeah.
Yeah, super
You'll
cool.
never forget that day,
I'll never
Adrian.
forget that day. You had gifts for me. You had, police bag, which we still have. We still use for grocery shopping because it's the most solid bag ever.
Yeah, it is, eh?
My wife told me to mention it to you that we use it like every week.
Yeah,
Pretty
and you see
crazy.
all of Montreal on it.
Yeah, Montreal Police on it, and you gave me a Team Canada jersey with a bunch of other stuff. Anyway, it was a great experience, and we talked about everything, and it gave me an appreciation for what you guys do because other cops were there, and the computers weren't working properly. You were entering the data, and they were doing overtime. Anyway, I have to commend you guys. You do a lot of work. You put in a lot of hours. So
Yeah.
anyway, it was
We
a
do that
great day.
on not a regular basis, but we do sometimes we invite people with influence to come
Yeah,
and do a ride along, which we call it a Cobra, but a ride along with police officers. So that way they can go out in the world and just tell people about their experience with the police officers. So we'd have politicians, we'll have school directors, we'll have business owners, and they'll come and they'll just basically see what the world of policing really is, and
yeah.
hopefully we'll get them on our side.
Yeah, it's not what I expected. It's more, it's harder work than you were telling me about all kinds of stuff. I don't want to get into it, unless we could probably, probably be a 4 hour video.
Absolutely.
But yeah, but I did meet with a lot of cops. We're talking about investing, and they were telling me their stories, and a lot of them, they've been through some stuff. It's hard being, doing the patrol and things like that. You could see a lot of crazy stuff, right? So the first question I want to ask you is what kind of investing experience did you have? Like, were you managing your own stuff prior to discovering the income style of investing? Did you have it with an advisor? What's your investing experience
Well,
before doing it
yeah.
yourself?
Well, when I had my company at the age of 18 years old, 19 years old, I was working at a hotel and I had little contracts, security contracts. So I would be making a bit of money here and
Yeah,
there. I had like every time $5,000. And I remember one investor who worked in the field that I met. He says, the best thing to do is go visit three different investors and get the best of those three investors, which I did. I went to two banks and I went to a private investors group. So I wrote down notes to see, what was the best strategy. And
yeah,
back then, the best strategy, it was very, very simple. It was GICs, believe it or not. They
they were
were
high back
elevated
then.
GICs, but you had to keep it there for 5 years.
Yeah,
And in those 5 years, the first year, it's 7%, and it would climb all the way to 12.5%. So every time I had that $5,000, I would put it in, and I kept growing the income, right? And then after that, I got to know another Italian investor. His name was Bruno, and I gave him some of that money to put into mutual funds. Well, when I got into the mutual funds, it was good at the beginning, but it always fluctuated, and I
yeah,
never saw the dividend returns. So
yeah.
I
It's
kept it
harder
in
to
there
see the root. Yeah,
for a little while, and I invested slowly through mutual funds because back then that's all we knew is mutual
yeah,
funds. But I would put them in vehicles, right? So I would put them in RSPs, and at the time we didn't have the TFSA, which is the tax-free savings account, but we did have the QSSP, which is if you invested in Quebec companies, you
yeah,
would get like a 30% return, which was great. So I built up a nest to a point where I kept investing. I invested also in real estate. I invested also in REITs, real estate
REITs.
investment trust funds, especially in Toronto, which they've done very, very well. And then I happened to be watching YouTube, and I happened to see you, and you were talking about passive investment. You were talking about dividends, and even if the market goes up or down, it doesn't really matter because you're getting the dividends at the end of the month. So that's what
Yeah,
really counts. And I remember when we went on that ride along together, I remember saying to you, "I get you, Adrian. I get you. I get you where you're going with
yeah.
this investment
I
strategy."
remember
And so
that.
far, since I've been 18 years old, I'm 55 years old now. All those years, I think this is the best investment strategy I found out there, thanks to you.
Well,
So,
I appreciate that, and you're very welcome.
yeah,
My next question, obviously, why do you think that?
I think
Why?
that
Why?
because I think that because we're invested in blue chip companies,
Yeah,
we're invested in companies that over and over they increase their dividends. They've been there for years and years. They've been there for 20, 30 years. So when you're investing in those type of companies, and those companies are giving you back those dividends, like, I mean, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
You just put it in, you hold it there, and what you do is when the market goes down, like we've experienced it in 2022, you keep buying more.
Try to buy more. Yeah.
You buy more. Like HYLD went down today. I bought $12,000 just today because
Yeah.
it's down. And I know that HYLD, because of what we're invested in there and those multiple sectors, I
Yeah.
know eventually it's going to go back up.
Yeah.
And if it just stagnates and it stays where it is, I know that it gives me a nice return of over 10% and more.
Exactly.
Correct?
Exactly. So
So,
that's
so
why.
that
Yeah.
so those, Adrian, those dividends that I'm receiving, I'm reinvesting them. Why? Because I don't need the dividends. I don't use my dividends because I have a pension from the Montreal Police. And by the way, the Montreal Police pension, if anybody out there wants to become a police officer, we have
Yeah.
the best pension in all of Canada, next to the Ontario teachers unions.
Right.
We're well invested. So you're staying home for the next 30 years. If you live 30 years, 35 years, and you're making almost the same salary
Yeah.
as if you were, responding to 911 calls and putting your life in danger.
That's well deserved if you ask
Exclude
me.
exclude the primes that we get, exclude the overtime too. When you exclude that, we're making almost the same salary.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
great.
I've spoken to many teachers and police officers as well, and they have the best pension in Canada. It's like you're still working. So typically they say, and this was, I think, what I pretty much, like you said, you reinvest the dividends because you don't need it. And a lot of teachers, they when we have the one-on-one, they say the same thing. Look, I have my pension, I'm good. So I could just, I want to invest in something that's safe, that generates income. I don't really need the income, but I want the option to take some income without selling or managing too much. I want to be passive. Well, this is perfect. You could just drip, right? It's very easy to do. You turn on the drip. You could drip one account, maybe not drip the other one. A lot of people, they drip the RRSP and just let it go until 71. Because at 71 is when you really have to start taking it, but they won't drip the TFSA, and the TFSA is generating, $1,000 a month, let's say, if it's full with, high yield stuff, and they'll live on that, and they'll take that out to go on vacation or buy something on top of their pension. So they want something simple, something safe, where they have the choice where, that they could drip or they could take it, right? If you have growth investments or mutual funds, they work well too, but you always have to sell units to take it out, right? So it becomes more of a hassle. It's a great thing.
And opening up my own Disnat account, because I'm with Disnat Desjardins.
Desjardins, yeah.
Opening up my own account, I see the money, and I'm the one I'm the one who's controlling
right.
where I'm going to place it, where the amount is going, how much money I'm getting. So I'm the controller of my destiny, instead of giving it to somebody and then they're the ones that are, obviously taking the money at the percentage, regardless if you make money or you don't make money. So that's the reason, one of the reasons why, I like your strategy, your investment strategy.
Yeah, and an important thing that you said, and that this is literally one of my favorite things of the strategy. It's really a defensive strategy that keeps paying you no matter what the market does. Like you said, right, HYLD has gone down. We'll keep that as an example because the overall US market has gone down. But like you said, even if it stagnates, because a lot of these, the higher the yield is, the less growth you could expect. Because if you're getting 12, 13% yield, you can't expect 12, 13% growth as well. It makes no sense, right? The average market gives you about 10% return, Canadian market even less. I'm talking about the US one. It's about 10, maybe a bit higher in some years on average. And HYLD just tries to track the S&P 500, which literally is kind of the overall US market. But what I like about it is, up, down, flat, you're still getting that income every month that you could decide what to do with. If you want to take it, if you want to reinvest it in the same thing, if you want to reinvest, I call it a manual drip, you could reinvest it into other things. Right. So there's a lot of flexibility when it comes to the strategy. So how would you say it feels managing everything, your own investments, compared to being with like an advisor? You said you were with an advisor. What's the difference, you say? What are the advantages to
You just
managing it
feel
all
like you're in
yourself?
more control of your money. You feel like at the end of the month, when you get the dividends in, you're the one that's going to decide where you're going to
Yeah,
invest. And sometimes you just look at the different ones that you do have. Like I have over a dozen different ETFs that are with a cover call strategy,
yeah,
and I decide where I'm going to put it in.
yeah,
So you have, like I said, you have more control of your destiny. That's what I feel. Whereas before, I didn't have any control. You give it to somebody, they manage it, and when there's a down market like in 2022, well, you see your investment going down 10, 15%, 25%, and you're kind of like discouraged, which
yeah,
a lot of people are, right? Whereas with the passive investment, I'm encouraged. Like on the down markets, I'm buying. I'm buying with the
yeah,
dividends
yeah.
that
It's a
I've
big
generated.
difference, right?
It's a huge difference. And you don't have to. A lot of people say, are you on it all the time? Are you checking? No. Like I said, at the beginning, I said this morning I went to train at the gym. I
Yeah,
went for a walk. I cooked my lunch, and now I'm here with you. And I just bought just before we got on the Zoom meeting. I just bought, a few $1,000 worth of HYLD because it's low.
yeah, yeah.
So
You get almost 14% yield on that
yeah,
now. It'll just increase your passive income, which will increase your drip effect, which will just compound your returns over time. So it's really a
exactly.
no-brainer. It's very easy, like you said. I'm all about that. I'm all about making it as passive and spending the least amount of time on it, because you got to enjoy life. I mean, life is short. You don't want to spend all day looking at your investments and checking stock prices. So I'm all about being as simple, having the simplest and most passive strategy possible. And yeah, you definitely are taking advantage of that. So
For
that's
sure.
excellent. Yeah.
Absolutely. And like I remember one of the talks that we had, you were talking about like we're sitting around the table with friends, and a lot of people don't know anything about
I
investment.
was just gonna ask you about this. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's pretty crazy that, people, they go to school, they spend time finding a trade, but they're not taught how to manage their money. They're taught about how to get a career and finding a job, which is very important. But the second half of that is really how do you manage this money?
absolutely. And not
So
everybody's got big pensions, right, Adriano?
yeah,
Not everybody's going to say after 30 years, I got this big pension, so I don't really have to
that's
worry about money. Most people don't. They have to create their own pension. So
yeah,
they have to know how to invest. And I remember when I was in economics in college, it was one of my first economics courses. I remember the teacher came and he says, don't ever be one person away from poverty. And I said, what does that mean? Like we're all looking at each other saying, what do you mean, one person away? And he was right when he said that. He says, be in control of your destiny, you,
yeah,
not somebody else. A lot of people, they leave it to their parents, they leave it to their spouses to be in control of their finance. But what if one day the parents are not there anymore, or the spouse is not there, walks out on you? Then
yeah,
what?
yeah.
You're one person away from being in a poor situation and maybe being out on the streets.
Yeah, no, for sure, for
So
sure.
so that was a lesson. That was a lesson from that teacher in economics.
Yeah, I've learned. I had a good economics teacher as well. I remember a lot of the lessons he instilled in me, and talking about the stock market, supply and demand. I'll never forget when he put a chart of the stock market, and he just, it was a graph, up and down, and from beginning to end, he says the best strategy always is to keep buying consistently over time because the market goes up over time. So I remember he put a graph on the board, big graph, the whole board. He used up the whole thing.
Yeah,
And he just made a wave that kind of over time it went up, but then big swings. And he says, if you buy here, and he put little lines across the whole thing, even when you're buying here at the top and you're buying here and then it goes back, at the end of the day, the market goes up over time, basically. So it's always a good thing. It's a no-brainer to just keep
yeah,
buying over time. That's like one of my golden rules, right? To
that's
just,
correct.
I do it every month. I try to buy every month, whether you do it manually, whether you drip, whatever it is, try to keep investing over time.
Yeah.
It's the best
You
strategy.
know, Adrian, one of my partners when I was doing conferences was he was an NFL football player, and
Wow.
he would tell me all the time. He says you'd be surprised on how many NFL football players that don't know about investing have a big salary and it's in the millions of dollars,
Of
and
course.
then within a few years, once their career is over, after 5 years, they're working security doormen at bars
Yeah.
because they can't make ends meet anymore.
Of course,
He says
all
you'd
they do
be
is football, football, football. Then they
you,
forget about actually how to manage it, or they have a either crooked manager, or you know what I mean? It's crazy.
absolutely. And we know people that have made hundreds of millions of dollars, even in the billions, have at the end, because they don't know how to manage, they have zero to their name.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, for sure.
I think it's very important, and what your channel is all about. I think if you continue promoting it and more people get into it, I think we're going to be in a better society. Uh, and what you're doing and how you're promoting it, we should be teaching our 14-year-olds because at
Yeah.
14 years old, you start working at McDonald's and they start making some sort of income. Well, if they start investing, and then when they turn 18, they put $6,500 in a TFSA, then they're ahead of the game.
Ahead of the game, of course. You gotta save as much as you can. Start with 10%, then go to 15%, 20% of everything you make. You should invest it. You gotta invest in yourself first before buying your whatever crap you have to buy.
That's
So
correct. Pay yourself first.
pay yourself first, exactly. So I'm gonna show everyone your portfolio. You were kind of we're gonna see an overview of not only your portfolio but also your mom's portfolio, which I believe it's from a house sale, and some of it's invested there and generating some income. Before that, I just wanted to ask you, for people watching who are either hesitant about doing it on their own, hesitant about PII or investing in general, what would be your advice to them?
Just open up an account, a brokerage account. It doesn't matter with what bank, but just open one up and then start learning about it. Ask questions because we've all made those mistakes, right? We've all bought something and says, "Oh my goodness, I didn't want to buy it. As a matter of fact, I wanted to sell." So we've all made those little mistakes, but those are the mistakes that you make in order for you to get better. So that's my advice. Open up an account and start slowly. Start, first of all, listen to your channel, listen to the different ETFs that are out there, that all sector ETFs. Like you can't go wrong
Right.
because you got all the 7 sectors, excluding Bitcoin and excluding the REITs. But there's also an ETF RS, which if you want to get involved in real estate, well, it's there and it gives you like a 10, 11%
Yeah.
return on dividend return.
Yeah. All
So
right. Yeah.
just start
Exactly.
slow and just put a little bit of money. Like I'm coaching a new police officer to do the same thing. So right now we opened up an account. He's just waiting. Once that account is going to be open, he's going to give me a call and I'm going to give him maybe 4 ETFs. He's going to
Start with
put
these. Yeah.
$2,000 in each ETFs, and then he's going to get a little bit of confidence because he's going to see it. He's going to see the
The
dividends
money.
come in every month,
Yeah.
and then he's going to start putting a little bit more over time. He's going to separate it in cash account, TFSA, and also
Yeah.
RRSP. And then
That's
you
great
just go
advice.
with it. And imagine he's 22 years old. So imagine when he gets 42 years old in 20
He's gonna
years
have
from
two
now.
pensions. He's gonna have his own, and he's gonna have the police officer. He's gonna have
Yeah.
double.
And
Yeah.
instead of doing 30 years, he might retire after 25
Yeah.
years.
Yeah, and it's good when you start early. Another thing I've noticed with the young people, so obviously my style of investing is more popular with the older crowd, with retirees, people who want to retire, people who have money, sold their house, got an inheritance, want to put it somewhere that they don't have to worry about it, generate cash. But there's also young people who are just starting, like you said. And one good thing about the PII strategy, yes, it's also good to go with the growth stuff, right? A passive index ETF, but with the PII stuff, you see yourself getting paid every month. That's actually a big motivator, and it gives you more discipline to keep going and investing instead of squandering your money. And like you said, if you start young and you start accumulating and growing it young, yeah, I mean, you're definitely ahead of the game. So
Yeah.
a great advice, my friend, as usual. Thanks so much for that. And now I'm going to share my screen. I'm just going to show everyone a quick overview of your portfolio. We'll quickly talk about it. So here it is. This is the breakdown basically. So big positions in the broad ETFs, multi-sector, like you said, that have a bit of everything. HYLD is the biggest position here at 44, which is, for me, is basically an income version of the S&P 500. That's what HYLD is. You have HDIV, big position in HDIV. RS, there's your real estate, 8%. You have HMAX, 7%. So those are some big positions there. But you also have a little bit in other ones, like ENS, more niche stuff. ENS, you even have 2% in that Ether one. So how do you like the portfolio, or how do you decide on a monthly basis what to buy? What do you like the most? Which funds do you like the most, and why typically you buy
I like
them?
to see what is down at the end of the month. Let's say
That's
HMAX
good.
is down. Well, I'll put a little bit more in HMAX.
Yeah.
But I think, and PH, that was at the beginning when I was watching your show. It was more of a safe ETF. So I
Yeah,
put
it was.
quite a bit of
Yeah.
money in there, but I'm slowly dissipating it, slowly
Yeah.
getting rid of it
Yeah.
as time
And
goes by.
a lot of
So
people do have ZPH and still have held on to it. And even though, ZPH is really the overall US market, kind of, but with added safety and defense because they're writing put options on the stocks. But one thing that they keep telling me, and I'm sure you're going to say the same thing, is that even if you're down on it, you want to get rid of it, it's okay to just hold on to it because it's still paying me every month. And what people start to realize, because now my channel's been out for almost 3 years, is that this is the advantage of this style of investing. It's you're okay, or you're happy to wait because you're getting paid every month. So you're getting paid to wait, essentially. So I know you want to, you're eventually looking to get rid of it, but it pays you every month, right? So it must be still an okay feeling just to hold on to it, right?
that's correct.
Yeah.
And I do have some individual stocks that I'm slowly also getting rid of it, like Air Canada. I got CAE. I had Bombardier. I just sold Bombardier because it was doing very well, but it wasn't paying anything.
Right.
So for
Wasn't paying
like two
anything.
years, it was just going down and not getting any dividends. So you see, that's what people have to realize is that when you have those individual stocks that don't pay any dividends, it might be down for 2 years, 3 years. Meanwhile, those 2, 3 years, you're losing out.
You're losing out on income you could have received. Yes. And I've spoke to a lot of people that when they start investing on their own, just like I did, start with those individual stocks that are more speculative, don't have a dividend, but they're in the news and there's a lot of buzz. But like you said, if you buy it at the wrong time and they're down for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, you're literally making no money for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, plus all the time and energy that is draining on you. That's why I say it's not worth it. Always, one of my golden rules is always get something that pays you
And
monthly,
that's
no
it.
matter what. Downside, up, as long as it pays you, time is on your side, right?
That's
So,
correct.
yeah,
That's
very,
correct.
very nice portfolio, mostly in the all-in-one broad-based covered call
Yeah.
stuff, HDIV, HYLD, HDIF. EIT is another good one as well, which is an overall one. And you could always experiment with more niche stuff, like you got the Ether one, you got the ENS. But I always tell people, if you're gonna go niche, make that a secondary position. Do not make that a core
That's
position.
correct.
So this is great.
Yeah.
This is yours. Anything you want to
Yeah.
add? Any other thing that comes to mind?
No, just like I said, as we go along, this has been about maybe 3 years or 2.5 years that I've had some of these ETFs.
Yeah,
So imagine in 5 years from now, in 6 years from now, it's just going to keep growing.
yeah.
And my
With the
goal is
compounding, yeah,
my goal with the cash account, the TFSA, the tax-free savings account, and the
yeah.
RSP is to make the same salary I'm making now in the Montreal Police.
Your pension. So it's like we discussed before. You're gonna have two pensions, and more cash
Yeah,
flow just means more quality of life, right? More options, more vacations, which are well
yeah,
deserved, and less worrying as
yeah.
well, which is great.
It's going to be more for my kids one day.
And that's another thing too, right? I talk to a
Yeah,
lot of people that have kids, and it's a win-win, because if they're just living off their income, or they're only, another one of my golden rules which if you think about it, it's a very conservative way to invest. Just live off your interest or your income. Don't touch the capital. The capital just goes to the kids. So the kids are happy because they know what they're going to get. Parents are happy because they're actually extracting and living their good life. So it's a win-win, right? It's a great thing.
Correct.
So here's your mom's portfolio. Very similar, I guess, a big chunk in HYLD, HDIV, HDIF, which are the big all-in-ones, a nice chunk in EIT, which has been doing really well. ENS is just Enbridge. You know, it is only one company, but it's Enbridge with leverage and covered calls. Again, a little bit in the Ether, some in GDV, which is another good overall one, a little bit in HMAX. So tell me a little bit about this one for your mom. I'm sure your mom, I mean, she doesn't really know much about investing, right? So how did this come about? How did you convince her? By the way,
my mom is a traditional Italian lady who my dad did all the investments. My dad did all the banking. She had no clue on any of this, and basically, my dad passed away 4 years ago, so the family took over the portfolio. So we sold her duplex because she fell, she got injured, so we had to place her in a residential, an elderly old age residence, which she has all the great services, all the 4 or 5 services, cleaning, the food and everything. At first she was hesitant, but now she loves it because she's socializing.
Yeah, I'm trying to convince my grandparents too. They're so stubborn. They're so stubborn.
It's very difficult because they have a lot of memories in their house.
Right.
And because of the incident that happened where she fell, well, that was our golden opportunity to get her out of the house. If it wasn't for the fall, she'd probably still be in her big duplexes. And the duplex has stairs, so it was very dangerous for an elderly person. But they held on to that, those memories, right? And that's why they don't want to leave.
And do they hold on? They're good at holding on, the old school Italians, aren't they?
So now she's just 5 minutes away from where I live. I go see her on a daily basis. My sisters, they go see her too. So she's well taken care of. It's a relief for us. And we decided to sell her duplex in the good time, which was last year, just at the peak.
Great.
And we started investing in 2022. So what I did is that we had this chunk of money, and we slowly bought in increments. I slowly started buying in increments. So when the market was down, I'd buy more. I would buy more, and just up until maybe a week ago, everything is now invested. And you'd be surprised on the growth, and you'd be also surprised on the dividends that we were getting. So in the past 4 months, it's done extremely well, more than any GICs would give you, and more than any brokers out there that are giving you 5.6% returns.
Yeah.
And they're making money. They're making a 1.25, a 1.5%, regardless if you're making money or you're losing money.
Exactly. So that's where the return drag typically is with the financial advisors. It's with the fees or the mutual fund fees. So what I tell everyone that are in mutual funds or with advisors, and hey, I know there's a lot of great advisors out there. I've met a few of them. Some of them are very honest and want to do the best for their clients. But if you're underperforming the market, if you're getting 5-6% return, if you're not getting at least what the overall Canadian market gives you, which is about 7%, you're leaving money on the table, right? If you might as well put it in an ETF, even one ETF that invests in the whole Canadian market, like a VCN or an XIU or a ZCN, because at least you'll get 7 to 8% annually with some dividends as well. If you're making less than 6%, so that's a very easy exercise to ask your advisor, what is my annual average return since I've been with you? If it's anything less than 7%, you should consider leaving and managing it on your own. So how's your mom? Is your mom happy? Does she know how much money's coming in? Is she surprised? I know my grandparents are always surprised because they've been investing in GICs for the last 20 years. Only in the last 2 years have I convinced them. Only when they saw me on YouTube, that's when they actually started saying, okay, maybe this kid knows what he's talking about. They gave me all the money. I invested it for them. And now they're making on average 9% yield. Because I put it in things that are maybe a bit less aggressive with the income, but they have
Mhm.
HYLD and HDIV and all that stuff, and they can't believe it. So how's your mom taking this?
Yeah, she's taking it great. I mean, we talked to her. She's happy. For us, that's what's important,
Hmm?
Adrienne, is that she's happy. She's getting the services, and at a certain age, she's 86 years old.
Yeah.
When she sees her kids, we tell her we love her, we hug her, we kiss her, and when you see the smile on her face, that's what's worth it. Because at the end, money doesn't really, for a lot of people, money's not that important at the end. When you're on your deathbed, money's the last thing you're thinking of. As a matter
Yeah.
of fact, you want to give it away. You don't
That's
want
a
to, because
great
you
thing
can't
you
bring it
just
with you,
said.
right?
Yeah, that's a great thing you just said, and it's a great lesson because the one of the biggest criticisms that I get, or this style of investing gets, or the income style in general, is that over time you get less total returns on average than putting it in just an index based ETF without the covered calls. And that's possible. It's most likely, actually, I would say. But like you said, at the end, when you're in your 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, are you really going to care about an extra 1 or 2, 3% total return? Or would you have rather use that money to go on trips and vacations? And, it's
And peace
more,
of
I find,
mind.
I'm sorry?
And peace of mind.
And peace of mind. Yes, yes, yes,
Peace of
yes,
mind.
exactly. So it's a great, great lesson. So listen, man, I could talk to you forever. I mean, you're a super good dude. I had fun with you that day, and hopefully when you come to Panama, there are some golf courses here. You could maybe not only did you teach me how to shoot, but you'll teach me how to play golf because I never tried it in my life. So we could do that maybe once you come here.
It's a great sport. It could be frustrating, but it depends on who you're with and who you're playing. I
Yeah,
have a
that's
good
what I've
core.
heard.
I have like a good core of friends that I play with, and we have a blast every time we play. So it's a great sport. And you're walking, you're in the outdoors, and
Yeah,
basically
it's a
you're
beautiful,
enjoying the
yeah,
company.
beautiful place too. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I've heard. I heard it's all about who you're spending your time with. So,
yeah.
my friend Giovanni, thanks for doing this. I really appreciate your time, taking the time to do this. I hope the audience appreciates this. We've shown your portfolio. We talked about your story a little bit. So, I really appreciate it, and
Yeah.
I wish you a fantastic retirement. Enjoy it. You deserve it, and all the best to you, my friend.
It was great talking to you, Adrian. Take
Take
care,
care.
and we'll definitely see you soon.
Yeah. Ciao.
Ciao.
Hey, don't go yet. I have some important reminders, including some more recent ones, and I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. And for everything that I'm about to discuss, the links and info are in the video description below. So first of all, if you didn't know yet, I do offer a one-on-one coaching session where you'll have a 1 hour Zoom call with me where you could ask me all the questions you want, and I'll help you and assist you best I can. Just remember that I am not a licensed or registered financial advisor or planner. So to book a session, go on my website, passiveincomeinvesting.ca, and right there on the homepage on the left hand side, there is a small video. Watch that video to know how to book a one-on-one properly with yours truly. Also on my website, you could purchase my digital product, the Ultimate DIY Investing Package, which is on version 4 right now. It comes with lifetime updates, so you only have to buy it once. And this is really a reference tool or a companion tool to help you build your own portfolio according to your needs and your objectives. It has lists of funds, it has sample portfolios for both Canadian investors and American investors. So make sure to check it out on my website. I actually created a video which shows the product from A to Z because I don't want you to spend money unless you know exactly what you're getting. So make sure to check that video out on my website. And don't take my word for how good it is. Check out the reviews. There's over 300 of them and they are all 100% real reviews. So here's some more updated news or recent news. I am now on Blossom, a new investing app designed for investors. I've been using it for a few weeks now. I think it's really, really great. It has a really cool feature where users could actually add and share their portfolios and what they're buying and selling every day. So you could actually link your investing account so it's updated automatically on a daily basis. I recently added my own main portfolio so you could follow how my portfolio is doing live and what I buy every month. Really, really cool. It's like a mix of Facebook and Twitter, but specifically for investing. So get on your phone, click on the link in the video description below and download the app. It's 100% free, so you too could share your portfolio. Just remember to look for me and follow me. My username is Adrian, PII altogether. Also, I do have a referral link for Questrade, so you could get $50 worth of free stock purchases. This is the Canadian discount broker that I use and I recommend. Unlike Wealthsimple, the other popular discount broker in Canada, you could drip everything you want. It has all the stocks and it also has dual currency accounts. Very, very convenient if you're buying both Canadian stocks and American stocks. I have a Questrade video, by the way, which gives you a little tour of the features, so make sure to check that out. I also have a referral link for PASSIV. This is the portfolio tracking tool that I use to consolidate all our accounts to get a nice bird's eye view, so you can consolidate all the information together for easy tracking and stats as well. Also, our Facebook group, Passive Income Investing, is now an invite-only private group. So to join it, you need to click on the link in the video description below and give the group a like to get invited. So we take pride in making this one of the best investing Facebook groups out there with over 13,000 members. There's no scams, there's no spammers, and negative and doomsday people, we kick them out right away. Also, follow us on Instagram if you want a little bit more of our personal journey here in Panama. And lastly, just remember everyone, I am not a licensed or registered financial advisor. This channel is all about my personal investing journey and how I invest to generate high passive income from a diversified portfolio of high yield funds. It's for educational purposes only, so don't forget to do your own research and due diligence. And of course, stay safe everyone, stay healthy, and of course, stay passive. See you next time.